You. Always one boy.
We must let them test the girls.
Talk.
You are very young to think about.
Sick of eating Nuna legs. On here, and if we were going to find something...
Planet Brendok is
Well, if only I knew.
of force energy.
Protected.
My Padawan.
He was disturbed.
Do not tell him answers to ease his... Why I have a Padawan and you... Northlands yet. Meet us back at the camp.
When I can't find you.
Indara.
Go. It's your room. Night sisters don't raise younglings.
Prepare for a ceremony tonight. To me. See what I have seen.
It's an old platform elevator.
You to go in as a group. They'll take it as fine. And my Padawan, Torben.
The all-knowing Jedi were ignorant. Torben, you've traveled to have natural desires you suppress. I can help you. I wish to return to Coruscant. What you ask me? Ask me. Kneel.
We appreciate you. So, our coven will never let... Markings are customary in many...
Then who is protecting this child?
Just need to take a sample of your blood.
This test. You must...
What you see?
A planet.
Before we entered your home.
Josh and I will lead the coven. That said, everyone must know.
May was instructed to
There are other. I want to be a Jedi.
Blood samples. I've contacted...
Ojapa.
You saw what they were capable of. So,
They've already made their decision, Sol.
no, exactly the same.
Split one consciousness into two.
We just need proof of a virgin.
Go and take a walk, maid. Now go.
And stop her. Good girl.
To go. She has chosen.
Their mother, but you are also...
I think they've...
We won't let it happen.
The Jedi have breached the fortress again.
I would die before I let the Jedi take my... Take another.
To be raised by an institution.
Mama!
They're locked inside.
My mind is fortified.
going home.
I had to make a choice.
The counsel the truth.
I must face
At the mercy of the count.
fire.
The dark mystery of what transpired between the Jedi and Mother Anasaya's coven of witches was ultimately resolved in the Acolyte Episode 7. In the Acolyte Episode 7, Choice, we go back to the events of Episode 3, Destiny, but this time we see things from the viewpoint of the 4 Jedi who visited May and Osha's house and permanently altered their lives. 16 Tears earlier appears beneath a picture of Brendok as the show begins. In a forest, we discover Padawan Torben, Dean Charles Chapman, Jedi Knight Sol, Lee Jung Jae and Kelnaka, Junas Suotamo, and Master Indara, Carrie Ann Moss employing tools to carry out scientific assessments of the plant life of Brendok. They labor in quiet up until Kelnaka yells at the sky, at which point thunderclaps can be heard. The Jedi set up camp around a small fire. Indara tells her Padawan not to turn down a Wookiee's meal, even though Torben is having problems finishing it hot. Torben is complaining that after 7 weeks on Brendok, the crew has not seen any indications of a civilization, and he is ready to return to Coruscant. Indara cautions her Padawan not to focus on unfavorable emotions like worry. Torben responds that he needs motivation and that their goal is important. Sol retorts that they are searching for vergence, which is a singular concentration of force energy surrounding a single spot. If they can demonstrate that the vergence gave rise to life on Brendok, which had been declared dead after the great hyperspace disaster event a century prior, which served as the catalyst for the Star Wars High Republic storyline, that would be a pretty significant discovery. Sol refers to this mission as honorable. The Jedi pick up their studies the next day. Indara draws Sol aside to talk about the expedition and Torben. Indara cautions Sol not to let his own desire to prove the vergence lifelink cloud his judgment because Torben is not the only one who has trouble controlling his emotions. She makes the point that because she understands this distinction, she is prepared for a Padawan whereas Sol is not. Sol is dispatched to investigate the undiscovered Northlands when the Jedi break off. Sol discovers a young Osha and May utilizing their force powers on some butterfly creatures after taking a speeder bike out of the area, as shown at the introduction of Episode 3. Unable to get in touch with Indara, Sol pursues the girls back to the Witch Coven stronghold and Mother Coral, Margarita Levieva. After breaking inside the fortress, Sol surprises Coral and Anasaya by seeing Mother Anasaya, Jodie Turner-Smith teaching Osha and May how to use force during battle drills. Outside the fortress, Sol discovers a coven of witches getting ready for the ascension ceremony that we seen Osha and May undergo. Sol makes his getaway and returns with his discoveries to Indara and the other Jedi. Torben becomes concerned that they may be facing the Night Sisters as he surmises that the group is a coven of witches. While Indara cautions against drawing hasty judgments, Sol argues that he witnessed what appear to be ceremonial preparations and that the girls could be in danger of being used. Indara gives in when Sol begs her to accompany him back to the coven so she may make her own judgment. When the Jedi reach the stronghold of the coven, which Torben identifies as an abandoned mining facility, Inadara wants to enter by herself, but Sol is concerned by the amount of witches, more than 50. Though Indara perceives it as a group of 50 women and 2 kids who are suspicious of strangers, she again gives in when Sol demands that they enter as a team. Mother Anasaya, Coral, and the witches are waiting for the Jedi when they reach the Coven stronghold, another rerun of Episode 3. This time, Anasaya utilizes her abilities to infiltrate and take control of Torben, turning his frustrations and anxieties over the mission on Brendok against him. We get to peek inside his head. It is revealed that Torben voluntarily surrendered to Anasaya, akin to succumbing to the dark side's allure, in return for returning to Coruscant. When Osha says she wants to take a Jedi exam, Inadara pushes Anasaya to comply with a reasonable request, and she succeeds in getting it approved. After Torben is freed, the Jedi leave. Back on board, Indara reveals in a chat that Sol staged the tests to buy some more time, and she intends to speak with the Jedi Council about what to do next. Although Sol acknowledges that he has a connection to Osha and wants to put her to the test, Inadara brushes this off, saying that Osha will never have a true chance to become a Jedi since the females are too old and the coven is too closed up. Sol is driven to act, despite Inadara's repeated warnings against it, by the ramifications of the Ascension, May being marked and Osha not being marked. When Osha and May from the coven come, Torben is in deep meditation. He draws blood from May and gives it to Sol and Indara. May breezes through the exam out of impatience, but Sol catches her giving false information. Indara queries May about her request to return to her family and the Coven's actions the previous evening when the Jedi showed up. After Indara compliments May on her marking, she tries to explain Ascension, but falters when asked what the ceremony's ultimate goal is. Mother Anasea's words, which the Jedi interpret more literally than figuratively, that each person must walk through fear and be sacrificed to their destiny, are repeated by May. When Sol asks for a fresh strategy for Osha, Indara again gives in. Osha is motivated by Sol's account of joining the Jedi, and Inadara becomes concerned when Osha succeeds on the exam. Once Osha leaves, Indara asks Torben to draw blood, and she informs them that she will meet them at their campsite to provide the results and more guidance from the Jedi Council. Sol becomes agitated while waiting at the campground. When Indara does eventually return, it's with terrible news. The Council has said no. Particularly offended by the rejection of Sol and Torben, the latter of whom calls the witches dangerous and becomes agitated when it is suggested that they are still unable to return to Coruscant. Since he feels a personal connection to Indara, Sol stands up against the choice, but she cautions him once more not to tamper with someone else's fate. When Torben receives the blood test results back, he discovers that the twins have identical symbionts, which identify them as artificially manufactured, in addition to having a remarkably high M count. A Vergence was tapped for the force strength needed to divide one mind into two, according to Sol and Inadara's theory. This would be a stunning achievement. Torben rides off on a speeder bike to pick up Osha and May after realizing that their presence could be his ticket home. Kelnacker is persuaded to accompany Indara on the main ship as she launches Sol on a chase. May, Osha, Mother Anasea, and Coral argue about Osha's choice to join the Jedi while Torben makes his way towards the Coven. Osha is granted her request by Anasea with compassion, but Coral pulls May away and incites her to fight against her sister. As Anasea turns to face the Coven and says she's putting motherhood above her leadership duty, May disables the Stronghold's entrance and witches devoted to Coral assist in getting ready to battle the Jedi. Coral and Anasea have a last disagreement over whether to respond violently or not. May seals Osha in her chamber. Indara flies the ship over the Coven and throws Kelnacker in. May starts the fire and attempts to put it out right after, but it's too late. When Sol and Torben get there, the witches are already there. Coral and Anasea confront them, but Sol says he has good intentions. When he inquires about the twins' creation, Anasea becomes enraged, telling Coral that the Jedi's purportedly good intentions would eventually destroy them. May hurries outside to plead for assistance with the fire and is misidentified as Osha as Torben grabs his blade. Anasea yells, "No," and transforms into a dark mist, a metamorphosis that also begins to happen to May, as Coral and Torben begin to assault each other. In a panic, Sol plunges his lightsaber into the cloud, impaling Anasea, who later admits that she was only attempting to defuse the situation and was about to release Osha. The witches strike as Coral cries for May to flee after Anasea dies. Coral spars with Sol, who declines to retaliate. Torben holds his own against a group of energy bow-wielding archers. The Coven fortress erupts due to the fire. Coral transforms into mist and disappears along with the archers. Speaking, Coral informs Sol and Torben that it was a mistake to bring him to the castle. Although Torben maintains that his mind is prepared to oppose, it seems that Coral is speaking about Kelnacker, who is under the influence of a coven of witches reciting a spell. Torben suffers severe injuries from Kelnacker's attack, including facial scarring and left eye malformation. The Wookiee almost chokes Sol, but Indara intervenes, defeating Kelnacker and utilizing the Force to drive the witches from his mind. As the fortress erupts into flames, Indara tells Sol to get the twins and leaves the witches comatose. After seeing that the ladies are on opposing sides of a crumbling catwalk, Sol decides to use his Force abilities to save Osha rather than May. The Jedi spacecraft is returning to Coruscant. Torben is embarrassed, but Sol is adamant about his decision. After arguing and nearly exchanging punches, Indara and Sol diffuse their tension. According to Indara, May caused the fire and the Coven was destroyed, with the exception of Osha. This is what they will report to the Jedi Council. Though Indara won't let Sol off the hook too easily, Sol wants to reveal the truth since doing so would most likely prevent Osha from becoming a Jedi, and that dream is all that remains of her. Indara forces Sol to consider the reasons behind his decision. Sol starts telling Osha the lie that will define him for the next 16 years as soon as he wakes up.